Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome. This is Radio.W.O.R.K.S, and I am your forever host, Kim, speaking to you from Radlett in England. So this morning I would normally be here with Marina, but she's had to go on to another show. So it's just me, and you will have to listen to me gabbling through the whole of the show. Which you might be used to if you've been listening into my podcasts while I've been talking about the new book I'm writing, Forever Young, the Advanced Guide to Anti-Aging, because I've been doing podcasts to help in the creation process of that book. So this morning, as I promised last week, I'm going to be talking about beauty sleep, because although we've all heard the term beauty sleep, actually, I think a few of us realise quite how important beauty sleep is to us. It is extremely important in terms of helping our cell renewal. During the day, we are busy, our bodies can't go into that renewal and repair phase because they've got other things to be worried about. We're up and about, we're paying attention to the world and our environment. Our skin's having to fight off free radicals because of the UVA and UVB from the sun, and from the foods that we eat, they also have free radicals in. Not all of them are antioxidants. Some of the foods that we consume also create free radicals, and alcohol, things like that, caffeine, anything that we consume that isn't specifically creating antioxidants is probably creating free radicals. And we can't avoid eating, we can't avoid drinking, we can't avoid going outside into the sun and being attacked by the rays or pollution or things like that. And we certainly can't avoid breathing because, oxygen to us as well as creating those free radicals. So during the day, our bodies are very busy kind of protecting us from all of these things. But when we go to bed, the levels of things our body's having to cope with at the same time are much reduced. It's just sleeping. And while it's sleeping, it goes into a repair and renewal phase. So this is when anything that's damaged about our skin gets repaired, but also all of the skin cells, they're growing at a much faster rate at night. And I've been talking to you through my book on anti-aging about how important our cell renewal is. So we've got two main layers of our skin. We've got the dermis and the epidermis, and underneath that we've got another layer with fats and things like that. And now the fats and things are very important because they help give structure to our skin, they help support it, which is why as we go into our menopause, those fats begin to dissipate and go to other parts of our bodies, usually probably somewhere we don't want them, like our hips or something. So they stop popping up the underlying parts of our skins. This is where we find that we get these deeper ridges occurring because the underlying fat's going. The next layer is the dermis, and this is where all of the cells, the nerves and blood supply and everything all are, which is where hormones are produced and all kinds of things. This is the main part. This is the part that's really your organ, is the dermis. And then on top of the dermis, we've got a protective part called the epidermis, which is in 5 layers. The bottom layer is the one where the cells are growing. And then as the cells move up through those layers, they become keratinized. Keratin, which is in it's what our hair's made of, is kind of pumped into the cells, and the liquids, the fluids, the water and lipids, the fat in those cells come out into the layer of the epidermis. And that forms a very effective barrier because you've got the cells which are now hardened, so that they can't be penetrated so easily by things that we do not want in the skin, such as microbes or bacterium, things like that, viruses. So they can't they can't go through into the skin quite as easily as they would be able to. And the second part of the function of the liquids that have come out into your skin is they create what we call the acid mantle or the lipid barrier. And this is the when people say that if you use soap on your skin, something like that, it strips your natural oils from your skin. These are the oils that are being stripped. This is the layer which is being damaged by products that are too harsh for your skin, or by radiation, pollution. All kinds of things can spoil this layer. But actually, in itself, it's a very effective barrier. It helps to prevent all kinds of things that we don't want going into our skin from coming in and spoiling, kind of damaging us. And that cell renewal from the bottom layer to the top layer through those 5 layers, in our when we're young, up to about our 20s, is about a 2-week process, and that stretches through our 30s. Well, we had approximately 1 day on for every year, really. So by the time we get into our 50s, this layer is much more sluggish. The turnover of the cells is much slower. And you can imagine, if you look at a child or a very young person, they've got this natural glow, natural healthy looking skin. And you can imagine if the cells are coming to the surface within a fortnight and then coming away, these are quite new cells that you're seeing on the surface of their skin, which is really beautiful. But what happens as they get older, those cells begin to not look as fresh. They look more dull, they lose their kind of vibrance. And it's hardly surprising, they've been hanging around on your skin for 5 or 6 weeks, that they're not going to look as good as they did when they were only there for a fortnight. So this is why I've been talking in my book about how important it is for people that want anti-aging is to exfoliate. Now, in exfoliating, we remove the top dead layer of the skin, so the cells have to move up another layer. So it forces your skin to produce the cells more quickly at that base layer, that basal layer. And so they produce the cells more rapidly. So if we take them off, they produce more rapidly. When you're very young, those cells are working as fast as they can go. And actually, if you've got acne problems with the skin, as a lot of teenagers do, to be rubbing away at your skin with these exfoliants is not a brilliant thing. So in my first book, I talk about not using exfoliants too often, but and specifically if you're prone to oily skin and to acne. But when you get older, the tendency for our skin is to become much drier, and we become less prone to teenage acne by our mid-20s, and really have moved. If we've still got acne, it's adult acne by slightly different issues. So usually by the time we get into our a stage where we're worried about anti-aging, this is the time when we're not so worried about acne, we're more worried about the lines and wrinkles, and we're less likely to have breakouts that we can spread by using those kind of products with beads and things in. But also even the active products that we can use instead, like the alpha hydroxy acids, or glycolic acids, lactic acid, those things, which lift off those dead skin cells by breaking down the bonds in the top layer. They are very active, and they're fine for people to use if they're worried about anti-aging, because what we want to do is we want to be getting rid of those skin cells. They're not really so great for people with very young skin whose cell turnover is already very effective. We don't need to be pushing that any higher, because one of the problems with acne is that people with acne produce a lot more skin cells than people without it. So actually, we don't want to be pushing up the amount of skin cells produced in people that have acne. They have other very good reasons for needing beauty sleep, because if you have acne, you've got a lot more repair that needs to be going on. So either way, whether it's because you're aging or because you're young and you have a lot of healing needed on your skin, beauty sleep is very important. That sleeping time is the time when those cells are growing at the most active rate and the repair is acting most effectively. And so the problem for us in this day and age, I think, is that getting effective sleep is very difficult. Distractions going on after dark than we would have done years and years ago. And I think, if you look back, the way we're designed, what we should do is when it's dawn, we'll wake up and we'll be active during the daylight hours. And then when it gets dark, really, once our wood fire's burned out, then there's nothing really keeping the light on. And there's no particular reason to stay up because it's got cold. So you go to bed early. And our bodies haven't actually changed very much since we were cavemen, even though our environment has. So the fact that we can turn on an electric light and we can sit and watch TV until 1 or 2 in the morning doesn't alter the way our body reacts. And our bodies still need to be in a sleeping phase between 1 and 2 in the morning, actually. It's when we burn the midnight the midnight oil, or burn the candle at both ends, as people say, what we're actually doing is we're shortening the time that our body's got when it would be in that active cell renewal phase. And that phase starts after 11. We need to be effectively asleep before 11 because we need it to start kicking in to give us the most optimum amount of time for that cell renewal and repair to be occurring. That active period is approximately 5 hours long, and we really need to go to sleep for about an hour before it starts effectively, and we'll come out of sleep naturally about an hour after it's occurred, or if our sleep patterns are quite sort of natural, that's around 7 or 8 hours. The renewal happens for longer in younger people, and if you think about teenagers, they struggle to sleep. Teenagers struggle to get up in the morning, and they've normally stayed up late at night, but they struggle to get up in the morning. And one of the reasons is because they've got all of this stuff going on in their body with the hormones and such like. They've actually got a lot more cell renewal and things happening in their bodies. And children have got all the growing phase to go on. All of this happens at night. So children and teenagers need a lot more sleep than adults. We only need to repair what's already there. Children are still creating it, and adolescents are fighting against this onslaught of new hormones and things. So for us as adults, around 7 or 8 hours is is more than enough time for us to get this optimum sleep in. But if we can go to bed before 11, then you're going to get the very, very best of it. But as adults, it's actually quite difficult sometimes to get to bed before 11, and even when we do, quite often it's very difficult for us to achieve very good sleep. And one of the things I've learned about in recent years, not particularly due to me, because I actually sleep like a log, and very rarely have any trouble sleeping at all, but because my husband doesn't sleep particularly well, and I've got a friend who really has quite bad insomnia. And one of the things I've learned about is sleep hygiene. Now, sleep hygiene is nothing to do with how clean your sheets are, although obviously they really need to be very clean because we don't want to be rubbing dirt into our skin. But that's not what I'm talking about here, and I'm not suggesting that anybody's got grubby bedding. But sleep hygiene is actually to do with a routine of cleaning up our patterns when we go to bed to help us to achieve sleep more easily. So one of the important things is to have a fixed bedtime and time of awakening. This is important because our bodies get used to patterns and they have rhythms. And if we set a rhythm for our body, okay, we're all going to break it occasionally, as no doubt we'll go to a party or we'll have to like burn the midnight oil doing some kind of piece of work, or working towards a deadline, things like that. So there's always going to be a reason why we might not be able to use that fixed bedtime. Maybe we're going on holiday, we have to get up ridiculously early to travel to the airport. So I'm not suggesting that it has to be perfect, but if it's a general pattern, it will help your body. So if you try to go to bed before 11 if possible, and you might not be able to do that, if you can, then that's optimum. And you will have an amount of sleep which you're most comfortable with. Now, I'm suggesting that your renewal pattern happens for about 5 hours and you need about 7 hours. That's really just an average. Some people get by on 4 hours. Famously, Margaret Thatcher got by on 4 hours for her whole working life. And that's okay if that's what works for you. But as long as the period of time when you're actually asleep is effective, because if you're still tired afterwards, or if you're finding yourself feeling sleepy during the day, then probably that's not working for you, and you probably need to have a longer period at night. The second thing that they suggest you avoid is napping during the day. If you can imagine that your body needs 8 hours a day, it's not really going to think, oh, I'll just take that 8 hours at night, even though I've had 2 hours in the day. It only needs 8 hours, so you're probably only then going to get 6 hours at night. And the same if you normally only sleep for 4 hours at night and you sleep for an hour in the afternoon, you're probably only going to get 3 hours at night. So whatever time slot you allocate for your sleep, try to just get that, and try to avoid having extra sleeps during the day. And obviously, some of us, if we're unwell or something, if we have missed sleep the night before, then we'll all occasionally need to grab a cat nap, especially if we've taken a very early flight in the morning, something like that. But just avoid it generally. The other thing, and this might surprise a lot of people, that is recommended to avoid is drinking alcohol between 4 and 6 hours before you go to bed. Now, this basically, for most people, probably means avoiding alcohol most of the time, because very few of us are going to be drinking it before 6 hours before we go to bed. Most of us will be working at that time. Also, alcohol, if you are the kind of person that struggles to sleep, and I know a lot of people are, alcohol is one of those things that people generally feel helps them to get to sleep. So being told to avoid it actually is counterintuitive. But the thing about alcohol is it does send you into a kind of a drug-induced kind of sleep, which is not the perfect kind of sleep for your cell renewal. So actually, if you can get out of the habit of relying on the alcohol, then your sleep is going to be more refreshing and more effective. Avoid caffeine 4 to 6 hours before bedtime. This won't surprise many people so much because most people know that caffeine is very effective at keeping you awake, which is why they put shed loads of it in these little energy drinks that give you wings and such like. The wonderful thing about caffeine is that it does perk you up, and it has a certain feel-good factor to it. But in terms of your skin, I would recommend not having more than about 4 caffeinated drinks a day. And definitely, if you struggle to sleep, then don't have those anytime shortly before you go to bed. Also, avoiding spicy and sugary foods 4 to 6 hours before bedtime. Because this can affect your ability to actually stay asleep. You can imagine the extra sugar that you might get, the pep from that, and also any burn you might get from kind of chili and things, will get your body cycling more quickly. You know, you've got more energy there, and the heat, chili actually increases your metabolic rate as well, as do things like cinnamon. So spicy foods can kind of send your metabolism up, and if your metabolism is working more quickly, then your body is going to be working on your metabolism, not on cell renewal. Exercise regularly, but not right before bedtime. This might also surprise people because people might think, oh, you know, I'll just go for a run, it will tire me out, and then I go to bed. But actually, that's not true either. Again, going for your exercise will increase that metabolism that's going on, so your body will be burning energy and, you know, making muscle and things, but it won't be going into that renewal phase. So actually, it's not great. It also it invigorates you, so it makes it actually harder to go to sleep. So avoid exercise for about 2 hours before you go to bed. In terms of your sleeping environment, there are several things. Obviously, use comfortable bedding. If you're on an uncomfortable bed, everybody knows it's really hard to go to sleep if it's not comfortable. But to also pay attention to the temperature of the room. It shouldn't be either too hot or too cold. You really want it to be very comfortable for you, whatever's comfortable for you. If possible, block out distracting noises and also eliminate as much light as possible. Now, obviously, if you live in central London, you may well have constant traffic noise, and you might even have a train line or something like that going behind you. When you first have these things, they will affect you because you'll notice them a lot, but actually they do tend to, your body will tend to block them out itself after a while. So people who are used to living in a city environment or somewhere noisy like that will probably not really notice those noises, and they will be cut out. But if you go away and you're used to sleeping somewhere very quiet, as I am, and you go and you have a city break, then you might struggle to sleep at night because it's surprising how much noise there is in the city. Make sure that your room's well ventilated. It's very important to have nice fresh air in your sleeping environment. we bedrooms can get quite damp. So if you don't open the window regularly, then that can be a problem for people, because damp in the air is not a great thing for helping us relax. It's also not very good for our health. So make sure that your bedroom is well ventilated. You also want to block out as much light, but that won't surprise anybody. You can get a special curtaining fabric which is very effective at blocking out light. So if there's a problem with the curtains, if they're very too thin to cut out the light from outside, then investigate some of these blackout curtains. Now the next one is that bed should be reserved for sleeping and sex, which you'll be glad to know you're allowed to do the latter now, but actually you shouldn't be doing anything else in your bedroom really, especially in your bed. And I am guilty of this. Sometimes I do sit up there and do bits and pieces if everybody's downstairs busy. So I will occasionally sit upstairs on the computer, but actually it's a really very bad idea if you struggle to sleep at night. And the one thing I will do is that although I take my computer up there and use it occasionally, and it is only very occasionally, maybe once a fortnight, maybe not even that, I think I've used it about once in the last 2 or 3 months in bedroom recently. So so that's lucky for me really, but the important thing that I do is take the computer out of the bedroom afterwards. It's a very bad idea to have electrical gadgets and things in your bedroom. This might make a few people sad, because actually they're recommending having a computer in your bedroom, but also having a TV in your bedroom, and even having a radio or your mobile phone in your bedroom. Now, some people have alarm clock radios, we do. And one of the things I often tell my husband off for is that he tends to play the radio when he goes up to bed. I've said to him this is not a good idea. Having the radio on at night, it's not only does the whatever's happening on the radio, whatever they're talking about, kind of disrupt you. Excuse me. But also the radio, I don't know if you've ever listened to a radio, but it has a kind of a hum that goes on in the background. All electrical goods have a noise attached to them that, unless they are fully turned off, will always be there. So with an alarm clock radio, there will be a noise going on constantly. So I would avoid alarm clock radios actually. And recently somebody told me about this amazing clock that you set, and it starts to bring lightness into the room over about an hour period. So you wake up very naturally with raised serotonin levels. And I can't remember what the brand was, and I wouldn't probably be very naughty of me to tell you on here anyway. But it might be well worth you looking into getting that kind of light, because I know some people rely on their mobile phones for their alarms as well. And mobile phones are a real big no-no in the bedroom. If you can possibly avoid it, don't take your mobile phone to your bedroom, because but also I read some statistics recently that something like 70% of people are checking their mobile phone in the night. And this is obviously very distracting. If you're checking your mobile phone, you're either reading messages or you're reading some social media. And although some of the stories on there may be happy and cheer you up, other stories are going to be devastating and horrible. And this is not going to help our sleep at all. If you're struggling with sleep, this is the last thing in the world you're going to need. So definitely leave your mobile phone downstairs or in a different room, away from your bedroom, and preferably somewhere where you can't hear it burbling and sending messages that a million people have liked something. Because even though you're not necessarily mentally, actively aware that this is going on. In the back of your mind, you always know this is going on, and your subconscious will hear that and will know what's going on your phone. So just leave your phone somewhere away. You don't answer your phone between the periods that you go to sleep. And your set bedtime, no phone. Unless there's an emergency and you're waiting for a really important call, which is an exception, then just leave it out. I do long for the time actually when people didn't expect you to be available every second of the day. Because I do therapy, and when I'm doing my therapy, I turn my phone on silent because I don't want the phone to be ringing while I'm in the middle of doing a treatment. And people will still say to me, "Oh, your phone's never on," in a very grumpy way, as though they should be able to get hold of me every second of the day. And I just think, when we were young, the likelihood of getting a hold of us on our phone was very small. I think that gave us a lot more relaxation than anybody's privileged enough to have now. And I look at my children, and they're available virtually 24 hours a day if they leave their phones in their bedroom. And I just think that actually a really good thing to do is to just switch it off and say, I'm not available between 8 in the evening and 8 in the morning, or 10 in the evening and 8 in the morning, something like that. Because there's very rarely anything that's going to be so very, very important happening that nobody is going to be able to get hold of you and it's going to make a major difference to your life. I mean, most of us don't use our landline all of the time. Most of us just use our mobiles, but actually most of us have a landline sitting there because it's attached to our broadband. So if anybody's desperate to get hold of you, if anything's really important, they can ring you on that, and you can hear that from all over the house. So I always think, if people are so desperate to get hold of me that they can think my mobile phone is off, maybe they should have phoned my landline and left a message for me, and then I'd get back to them. Anyway, that's my little rant over with. So I've talked about having technology in the bedroom, preferably not. The next thing they suggest is that you have a routine. So they suggest maybe a light snack before you go to bed, and things like warm milk. I don't drink milk, but some people would like warm milk, and it has an amino acid tryptophan, which is good for helping them to sleep. But also bananas are quite good for helping us go to sleep, apparently. So I didn't know that bananas were good to help me go to sleep, but I eat quite a lot of them, so maybe that's why I sleep like a log. Practice relaxation techniques before we go to bed. If you used to do yoga or some of these things where you do meditations and stuff like that, or just generally kind of having some kind of relaxation pattern where you light some scented candles and sit with a warm drink for a little while, anything like that, to help your body to slow down and to slow our breathing down and to let go of the pressures of the day and to not be thinking about what we've got to do tomorrow. It's very important not to take your worries to bed with you. So there are many things you can do not to take your worries to bed, but actually one of the things that you could try doing is to write things down, write a list before you go to bed, because one of the things I find is that I'll know I've got to do something tomorrow, and I'm worried about, I know I remember it now, but I'm worried that I might forget it tomorrow. So actually, if you write a to-do list with 5 things on before you go to bed, it's actually a really good habit, and it's one of the habits that I know a lot of very high-powered and successful people do, is to write the top 5 things they must do tomorrow the night before, and then as they do those things, they will be ticked off the list. So actually, not only does that mean that you're set up for the next day, but it's going to lift some of the worry that you might forget things you've got to do off of your shoulders, because you know that list there, so you can just let it go. It suggests establishing a pre-sleep ritual, so it can be reading for a few minutes or taking a nice warm bath. Again, feel free to have the scented candles and things like that. Because having this pre-sleep ritual, much as we do with our children when they're babies, we usually, read the story and give them a bath and things. And actually, what we're doing in that routine with the children is getting them ready so that they know they're going to bed, their bodies know that they're going to bed, and their brains know that they're going to bed. So it's all set, the pattern's set there for them, and their brains half settling before they even go anywhere near the bedroom. And we can do the same thing for ourselves. We can get ourselves into that I'm ready for bed routine, and that our heads are completely kind of used to it, and they know, and they start to settle before we even walk into our bedroom. So that when we climb into our beds, we already feel that this is a good time to go to sleep. Some people wake up once or twice in the night, quite a lot of people. Most people will wake up once or twice in the night. Some people have to get up and move around a bit and can't go back to sleep very easily. If you're woken in the night and you're struggling to go back to sleep, then they just suggest that actually laying there trying to force yourself to go back to sleep actually not going to work very well for you. And if you can't go back to sleep, then it's actually probably worth getting up and moving around for 20 minutes or so. We're very fortunate to have a kitten that we got earlier this year. She's going to be a year old in December, and I know my daughter sometimes wakes up in the night and she'll come and she'll give the cat a cuddle, because at that time of night the cat's always very happy to have a cuddle for some reason. So she'll come and be friendly if you do nip out to the toilet in the night. And so my daughter will quite often come and have a little play and a little stroke with the cat before going back to bed. And actually, it's quite a nice, relaxing thing to do. Stroking a cat or dog is actually quite relaxing. So that's a good thing to do before you go back to sleep. Or you could have another light snack, or read a little, as long as it's not a book that's overly exciting. Some people might decide that watching TV will be a good idea at this point. Actually, TV is a very bad idea, because what we preferably do when we get up at that time is to have very low lights on. We don't want to be bringing the light levels right back up to their normal levels, because that tends to wake us up more. And the TV is like a gigantic light, so it's a very bad idea to turn your TV on and watch it. It's not only is it very bright, but also it kind of engages our minds quite a lot. So actually, we'd be better off doing something that's that's much more gentle on our mind. So rather than watching TV, maybe just turn the radio on low, or like I say, read a little, things like that. There are some things that keep us awake at night. So physical things, if we've got a headache, or if we're having hot flushes, arthritis, acid reflux, indigestion, things like this, heartburn. These can all keep us awake at night. Any kind of pain can keep us awake at night. So obviously, if you are struggling from some kind of pain, then having some kind of pain relief if you're struggling to sleep is probably a good idea. So some mental health disorders and problems can also keep us awake. So if you're suffering from stress or anxiety, this will stop us from going to sleep quite so easily. But also depression, although we might not find so much trouble getting to sleep initially as somebody with anxiety, actually people with depression tend to wake up in the night more. So if you're finding that you're struggling like that, then definitely need to go and get some help, because these issues can be eased, and quite often they can offer you therapies and things instead of just throwing drugs at you. So definitely don't just take the first thing to hand if they're offering you drugs and you don't want them. Just say, no, I'd rather try one of the other techniques. And they can often offer you something like cognitive behavioural therapy, which is just helps us to reframe things and get ourselves in a better state of mind. And if you're only mildly depressed or something like that, those things can be really useful. If you've got more of a problem, then you probably need to take medication and have those treatments. But yeah, definitely go and see somebody if you're struggling mentally at all. If you're really struggling with sleep, then obviously you can get sleeping medications to help you go off to sleep. But even doctors that know that you're struggling quite a lot with sleep try to avoid giving you these things for long periods of time. What they normally recommend is that you take these things for about a week and then settle your sleeping pattern back into a good rhythm, and that once you've settled your sleeping pattern and taken away the distractions and things, that probably you won't need them anymore. So if you're resorting to something like Nital, which buy over the counter, it's probably worth doing the same pattern. So take it for about a week, settle your sleep pattern, write that down, and then only take it if you're struggling to go to sleep. And try to sort out your sleep hygiene in order to keep yourself in good shape. So that's about all I've got to say about hygiene, sleep hygiene, and about why we need to sleep and the benefits of sleep. So I'm going to say thank you, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, or even good night. And I've very much enjoyed talking to you today, and I'll be back talking about treatments sometime soon as part of my podcast for my new book that I'll be fetching out. And next week I'm planning on talking about water and why water is so important for our skin and our general affinity of water, really. So on to you next Friday if you tune into this show. And if you want to listen to my other shows or my podcasts, then they'll be popping up occasionally, although they're not quite a set of this show, because sometimes we're busy. But thank you, and I shall speak to you soon. Bye bye.